If you're considering buying an investment property in Brisbane, then this is the video for you. In this one, we talk about a whole heap of really cool, completely different options, from inner city property to a little bit on the outskirts through to really high quality beachside property to undervalued beachside property. Whether your budget's 500K or $1 million, there's plenty of value in this video. And most importantly, it could give you a great start to have a bit of a look at the market in more detail. So the first option is a suburb 19 k's from the CBD on the northern beaches, and that suburb is Brighton. Now, this is a suburb that keeps me awake some nights because I wish I had bought it 5 years ago. It's been an absolute standout performer in the last 12 months, but it is so undervalued in comparison to the Sydneys, the Melbournes, the beachside properties, even in many parts of Perth. Now, Brighton's a beautiful suburb, really on its way up, isn't it?
Yeah, it's starting to really change, and we've started to see that over the last sort of 5 years as well, go from an old retirement village it almost was to becoming this really new, fresh area where lots of people from Sydney and Melbourne have moved there because it is so close to the city, so close to the airport, so close to the M1, and it's just got that beautiful little beach area there as well.
You know, a lot of knockdowns going on there at the moment. You know, wealthy people moving in, single income earners working jobs, double income earners, lots of families, lots of maturing families, lots of young professionals coming in, lots of business owners too. There's also been a whole heap of beautiful places knocked down and rebuilt there recently. Some cafes and stuff like that are starting to pop up, which is cool. Now, Brighton sits just north of a really nice suburb called Sandgate, which has like a really northern beaches of Sydney type of vibe, like village vibe, really, really high-end boutiques, shopping, that sort of thing. So we see huge potential in Brighton. Now, this area has grown by about 6% per year for the last 10 years, which is, you know, quite a bit above the average in Brisbane. But we see over the next 15, 20 years, really strong upside. Brighton, if you look online's medium house price, according to smart property investors, sitting at about that 700K mark.
Yeah.
But in reality, good quality properties, we reckon, on the best streets are coming in from that 850 to well into the $1 million mark. And I think that's the sweet spot, the quiet streets, the bigger blocks, the nicer homes with renovation or knockdown potential is where I think the sweet spot is long term.
Yeah, without a doubt. But if you're looking and, you know, $850 to $1 million is really stretching that budget, but you still want to buy on a beachside suburb, there's definitely other options in Brisbane as well. And the second suburb that we really like a look of in 2022 is Deception Bay, which is actually about 10 to 15 kilometres north of where Brighton is. It's a gentrifying area. There used to be a lot of lower socioeconomic demographics that lived in the area, a bit more housing commission, but tide is definitely beginning to turn up there in Deception Bay, and we are beginning to see a lot of gentrification, a lot of owner-occupiers moving into the area, especially a lot of first home buyers as well, because there's still amazing options up there. According to the smart property investors, the median house price is sitting at around $435,000. But in reality, if you're looking for that good quality property on a nice big 600 square meter block of land, your nice 3 or 4 bedroom home on a nice quiet family friendly street, you're really looking at probably a purchase price of more like $600,000, maybe north to up to $700,000. But still really good value where you can be only a short drive from the beaches. You've got the North Lake Shopping Centre, the big Westfield there just down the road. It gives you really easy access to the M1. It's probably only about a 45-minute drive to the CBD. It's also only about a 45-minute drive up to the Sunshine Coast as well. So it is in a really central location. Now, the good thing about D Bay in comparison to a Brighton is it has only really performed just under 4% per year over the last 10 years. So it has underperformed in comparison to some of the others out there in Brisbane at the moment, which is what we really like. You can use that ripple effect to your advantage if you do have that lower budget, knowing that this area is going to continue to gentrify over the next 5, 10, 15 years as that population growth continues to occur up here in Brizzy.
You know, I'm super excited about it, man. One of the things that I love about that area is when you look at the 2011 census, it was almost like 50% government housing and renters. And then you look at the 2016 census, it's only 30% renters now. That trend is continuing to change. And I think by the time we see the 2021 data, we'll be looking at, you know, maybe even lower than 30%. So as you said, like that change is occurring, and it's one of those places where you can sort of get in on the ground up, and ultimately longer term, I think it will be $1 million suburb. It's just whether that's going to happen in 10, 15 or 30 years time. That's what we don't know.
Time will tell, right?
The third suburb we wanted to talk about today is honestly one of my favorites. I own a property in this one myself. It is Rana Hills in the Hills District, which is the northwestern corridor of Brisbane. Now, this has been an absolute sleeper for the last 5 years. Ridiculously high average household incomes, very, very low percentages of renters. You know, Simon, you made a great point off camera. It's very, very similar to the Hills District of Sydney or the east part of Melbourne.
Yeah, very similar type of demographics that live in the northwestern Hills District of Sydney and that northwestern Hills District of Brisbane as well. I guess the good thing about Rana Hills is just super close to the city, being about 12 to 15 Ks as the crow flies to Brizzy City.
You know, and what I love about it most is there's some suburbs a bit closer, like your Mitchelton, your Kedrons, your Wavell Heights. Now, these suburbs 3 or 4 years ago were literally 600 grand suburbs. And now these suburbs are well over $1 million, with some houses selling into the 1.5, almost $2 million mark now. And that ripple has just not quite got to the Hills District or Rana Hills yet. On top of this, there's some ridiculously big infrastructure going in there at Ferny Grove, huge train station redevelopment with a whole bunch of infrastructure like movie theatres and stuff going in too. As you're driving around the suburbs, I said it recently when I was down there with my wife, like a few years ago, you know, it was pretty suburban, but now we're starting to see every second or third home being renovated, repainted. The first of the knockdown rebuilds are starting to happen as well. Ridiculously good school districts in the area too. Absolutely huge national parks. I think there's 3 national parks within that region there. And what I like most is it's completely landlocked at the back by the Brisbane mountain range, which means development can't just exponentially keep going out through that corridor. So very, very family-friendly area, very strong rent returns, lots of brick and tile homes, slab on ground, lots of Queenslanders. Like, absolute, I think, going to be a winner over the next 15 years. Now, it has started to do well in the last 10, mainly because of the 20% growth it's received in the last year. I think it's averaged just over 5% per annum, which is, you know, getting up there for Brisbane. But, you know, I think there's a huge opportunity to run when you look at the neighbouring suburbs closer to the city still.
Yeah, and especially comparing it to, you know, that Hills District of Sydney that may be 20, 25 years in front of where this Hills District is right now. You know, there's plenty of upside potential there. And, you know, I'm really excited to see what happens with the properties that we've bought there, and you know, properties we'll continue to buy there over the next 10, 20 years.
You know, so to be 10 to 12Ks in the city for about a 700K budget.
Yeah.
Again, 700K is the average, but getting in at that level realistically is only going to get you the average property on an average street. We always recommend the bigger block, the better quality home. You know, realistically, you're probably looking at an 800 to 850K budget, similar to Brighton. But I think if you can secure the right property, there's some really, really, really professional local agents that can help you there. I just think it's a winner.
Now, the last suburb that we've identified for a winner in 2022 is Crestmead, down on the south side of Brisbane, about 23 Ks from the city. Absolute ripper little area down there, very similar to Deception Bay in the sense that this area is really beginning to gentrify, because what we've seen with areas just slightly closer to the city is they've performed extremely well over the last couple of years. And a lot of those owner occupiers, a lot of those first home buyers just can't afford the $800,000 properties being about 5Ks closer to the city. So they're just looking that little bit further out where there's still some great school districts. There's still, you know, good infrastructure down there. You've got the university, you've got the hospital, you've got the Hyperdrome shopping centre not too far away. And it's kind of in that corridor between the Gold Coast and Brisbane as well, which we know is going to be just completely changed over the next 10 years leading up to the Olympics, with heaps of infrastructure going in, upgrades to the major arterial roads, upgrades to the train lines. A lot of things are going to be changing down there, and we've already begin to see that tide shift there as well. It's had a ridiculously solid 12 months, like most areas in Australia has. You know, this has been a bit of a winner over the next 12 months, but I absolutely love the potential here over the next 10 years, because you can still get into really high quality properties for sub $500,000 at the moment. You can get that big 600 square meter block, a low maintenance 3 or 4 bedroom house in a nice, quiet, family-friendly street for that $450,000 to $550,000 at the moment. And the best thing about Crestmead is those rental yields are just so solid, because the vacancy rates are extremely tight. There's not enough rental properties available in the area, that the rental yields are actually sitting above 5% at the moment, according to smart property investors. So, you know, you can get a nice cash flow yield there as well. And that's what we really like this area for, more of our cash flow clients that are looking to, you know, make sure that it doesn't cost them too much money to hold their property in the short term. So absolute love Crestmead over the next 12 months, 10 years, 20 years. It's going to be a winner.
One of the things that I like personally about Crestmead is there's variety. So you can go for your 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, or 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, brick tile, slab on ground home. And there's plenty of them around, low maintenance, tenant ready, like set and forget. But there's also a heap of really high quality homes that have good bones, but that could do with a bit of a cosmetic uplift. So plenty of our clients, like half of them want the tenant ready place, half of them want to, you know, buy it a tiny bit cheaper and give it a coat of paint and give it a bit of flooring. And the other thing I like about the area is the council's very, very pro development. And so there's actually some opportunities in many of these places down in that south side to not just get a home, but potentially look at adding a secondary dwelling, or they call it an auxiliary unit down there, and potentially, you know, renting out the house and that as well. So that's one of the cool parts of South Brizzy. Obviously, there's a whole lot of things you need to figure out to be able to execute a more complicated strategy like that. But that's something that I think you're personally looking at the moment. You bought a property just next to Crestmead recently that's obviously done really well short term as well.
Yeah, exactly. You know, because down there was developed back in the 80s, 90s, they have bigger blocks of land. You know, 600 is a good sized piece of land down there, but it's not uncommon to find 650 or 700 square meter blocks down there. And if the property's set up well, you can definitely have those options to potentially add a granny flat in the backyard. And that's exactly what I'm going to be doing with my property down there in South Brisbane at some point over the next 5 to 10 years. Right now, I'm not really searching for that cash flow. I'm looking for a little bit more just capital growth and negative gearing from that particular property. But it's always nice to have those options up your sleeve. And I love that you brought up the, you know, renovator options as well, because it can really add some value to the property long term. If you do have that ability to add some value yourself, then, you know, if we do have a flat year or something like that, rather than relying on the market, you can take matters into your own hands and start manufacturing some of your own capital growth.
You know, across all 4 of these suburbs, there really is that dual option of buying a really high quality tenant ready home that you can just set and forget and do the maintenance on for the next 10 or 15 years. But there's a lot of homes with potential in all of these areas at the moment. And what I love about all of them is there's a pretty big disconnect between a really affordable home that you can do some work on and a really nice one. And so for those of you out there that like to be a little bit more active like we do, there could be potential there. And for those of you that are just like, I just want to buy it, own it, and let the market do its thing, there's plenty of them around at great prices as well. But whether you are looking for that inner city property or that beachside property, the more expensive one or the more affordable one, Brisbane really does still have it all at the moment. It's not like your Sydneys and Melbournes where the rising tide lifted all of the boats over the last 10 years. There's so many pockets with potential close to the city and further away at the moment. And we hope this video has helped educate you on that. Now, for those of you seriously thinking about buying Brisbane in the next 3 to 12 months, Simon and I would love to offer you a one-on-one strategy session where we can talk about where you are right now, where you'd like to be longer term. We can deeply educate you on the market based on our experience of buying over $250 million worth of property now in Brisbane. And then you can take that, you can completely go and smash it on your own and use that to your advantage, or maybe you can become one of the small number of people we work with each month. But honestly, either way, guys, we just want the best for you. We hope this points you in the right direction. And if it's not one of these suburbs, maybe you find something great around it, because these are the right parts of the city right now. But most importantly, we wish you all the best and all the safety moving forward in the coming years.
Sweaty. So sweaty. Oh, that's good.